All right, joining me now is Democratic Congresswoman Abigail Spanberger of Virginia. She serves on the Foreign Affairs Committee and is a former CIA officer. Congresswoman, thank you so much for your time. Do you think the Biden administration needs to do more to intervene here with whatever ways that they can, or what role should they be playing at this point? Because as you and I know, sometimes embracing an opposition figure in a country could be detrimental to that opposition figure.
That's right, Ayman, and thank you so much for having me on. I think that what the Biden administration needs to do, and what I expect they are in the process of doing, is reviewing all of our relationships, elements of our relationship with Russia. We have seen over the past 4 years the Trump administration time and time again has not stood up for human rights, for democratic priorities, for our system of government. Time and time again, we've seen the Russian government attack basic standards of behavior. When it was intervention within our elections, efforts to sow disinformation, the Russian bounty scandal where they were putting bounties on the heads of American soldiers. Of course, there's the Solar Winds hack. Time and time again, when Russia has aggressed against the international community and against the United States, our prior administration has not taken action. Now we see an individual, Mr. Navalny, a Russian opposition leader and someone who's campaigning for changes, anti-corruption efforts, who was poisoned by the Russian government, has now recovered and returned to Russia only to be arrested. It is an important place for the United States to take a stand, to make clear that this sort of oppressive anti-humanitarian efforts are inappropriate. But the comment that you raise about Mr. Navalny's safety and how involved the United States should be is a legitimate one. But hopefully it will be part of a larger effort for the United States to make a firm line in the sand in terms of what is appropriate behavior on the international stage. And the benefit and the strength that we as the United States have is that of our relationships with our partner countries, our NATO allies, our Western allies. Those relationships have taken a toll over the past 4 years under the prior administration. But thankfully, with a president with significant experience on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, certainly as vice president, and now with a secretary of state such as Secretary Blinken, right. I have faith that we'll be able to restore those relationships and have a bit of a unified response.
So let me ask you about some of the policy issues, and particularly some in the Middle East right now. And since you brought up the issue of human rights and the values this administration wants to attach to its foreign policy, the Biden administration is putting a hold on a massive arms deal about $23 billion worth that was initiated by former President Trump with the United Arab Emirates, including the sale of F-35 fighter jets. Do you support the blocking of that? Obviously, this is just part of an initial review. They're not blocking it. But do you believe that this administration should block the sale of those or the transfer of those F-35 jets to the United Arab Emirates to try to also prevent the war in Yemen getting worse?
Well, and what we've seen, again, under the prior administration was a total lack of respect for the congressional role in sales of weapons to foreign countries. In fact, I led an effort in the House of Representatives to try and block the sale of paveway missiles to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. It passed with bipartisan support in the House and in the Senate, and ultimately the president vetoed it after we had seen the death of school children on buses in Yemen because our weapons were being utilized by a government that does not discriminate the same way that we believe they should between civilians and combatants. And so I think it's an appropriate step for the Biden administration to review any potential upcoming sales, any deals that were made under the prior administration, because the real important thing here is that we should not be utilizing the sale of military equipment as a primary tool in our diplomatic toolbox. It is one of our ways of economically engaging with our partners, but far too often under the prior administration, there were sales that were made that were wholly inappropriately, did not stand up to congressional review, and when challenged by Congress, the president vetoed us. So I think the current administration is correct, and I'm grateful that they're going to conduct a full review. And I look forward to Congress's involvement in that process.
Let me, if I can, Congressman, very quickly put up for you on our screen this image that we just got into our newsroom. Kevin McCarthy meeting with President Trump in Mar-a-Lago. Your colleague, Congressman Jimmy Gomez, is introducing a measure to expel Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is accused of controversial social media activity before she became a congressman, also harassing a school shooting survivor. Do you support Gomez's resolution? What do you make of Kevin McCarthy going down to meet with President Trump?
So let's just remember where we were 3 weeks ago. I was in the United States Capitol as we were doing our constitutional responsibility of certifying and recognizing the election results of the November election when insurrectionists who were incited by the President of the United States and other members of Congress came to the Capitol. They came walking through the Capitol saying, "Hang Mike Pence," looking for Speaker Pelosi. Now, as more information's come out, hunting for members of Congress, trying to stop the election results from being recognized. So that's what we're dealing with. So the fact that Leader McCarthy would go to Florida and meet with a man who has now been impeached in a bipartisan way by members of Congress who recognize his significant role in inciting violence, far-right, extreme, white nationalist violence at the United States Capitol is just astounding to me. As it relates to Marjorie Taylor Greene, I have joined an effort to say that she should not be seated on the Education Committee. She has just been Leader McCarthy has appointed her to the Education and Labor Committee. That's a committee that has victims of school gun violence come before it regularly. And here is a woman who has denied the occurrence of the Newtown shooting, those 20 babies who were murdered in their classroom. She said it was a false flag. That woman has no place sitting on the Education Committee. As far as censure and other efforts for her or anyone else who incited an insurrection, I look forward to reviewing the efforts of my colleagues as they continue forth so that we can hold everyone who had a part in that violent, deadly day as police officers were beaten with American flags by insurrectionists so we can hold them accountable.
Congresswoman Abigail Spanberger, thank you so much for your time. Greatly appreciate it.